So today is Sunday. This is the 25th of May in 2025, and we're continuing our exploration of the town meeting warrant articles for the upcoming town meeting. You will have many chances to see this before that happens, but it is next Saturday, so we're going to walk through them so you have an understanding of what it is you're voting on. I have with me Lesa, Lessard, Pearson, who we think is the chair apparent for the select board.
I'm the acting chair.
You're the acting chair. Close enough.
Yes.
All right, and Lesa is going to walk through these articles with us because she's been on the board making the decisions about what does and doesn't go onto the warrant, and I'm just going to read them at her and at you and see what we can figure out. Some of these, Lesa will explain in more detail. Others you're all used to, and they'll be what you call housekeeping items, I believe, meaning basically that we have articles like this every year.
Every year.
So, on the 31st of May, we will have our annual town meeting, a special town meeting at 8:30, I believe, and an annual town meeting starting at 9. Is that how it works, or is it 8 and 8:30?
We need to be at 8.
All right, so probably special at 8 and, an annual at 8:30. So these are the articles for this year's town meeting. Article 1, to choose the following named officers by nomination: 2 almoners of the Whiting Street and Mrs. Susan M.D. Bridgman Funds, each for 1 year, and 1 trustee of the Calvin Bridgman Fund for 3 years.
So when I got this article, the first thing I needed to look up was what was an almoner. Is this a chocolate bar I don't know about?
Yeah.
And what an almoner is a person who distributes alms, which is a very old-fashioned way to say charitable gifts. And those charitable gifts, there are 2 trust funds, first established in 1888 with almoners or charitable gift givers to be voted at town meeting. The first one is the Calvin Bridgman High School Fund. This fund specifically is used to support, in support of the high school. So the income is used to support the high school. The Calvin Bridgman Library Fund, as it might seem, the income is to be used to support the public library. The Whiting Street Fund, the income is to be used for, and this is very old language, quote, for relief and comfort of the worthy poor in Belchertown, unquote.
Which is probably exactly how it was written in somebody's will.
Yeah.
It's probably verbatim out of a will and not changeable.
Yes, so. But I can understand how worthy poor might come across
maybe
as
a tad jarring.
Just a little bit. And then the Susan M.D. Bridgman Poor Fund. And again, this fund, the income is to benefit the worthy poor inhabitant in Belchertown with a percentage of prior year interest to be paid to the library each year.
Oh, so they combined some endowments, sort of.
Yes.
All right, we do this every year.
Yes.
I believe in the motion they will name the people that they're nominating.
Yes.
And generally it's people who have served before or have some other history with these funds. All right, that's Article 1. Article 2, to hear reports of the officers of the town and any committees that may have been appointed by the town.
Right. So Article 2 is really about approving the approval of this article because it's necessary to finalize the annual report.
Right.
That's what it's about. So the annual report is prepared by all town departments, committees, boards, commissions, and this year the report is available for download, and only a limited number of paper copies will be available for distribution upon request. So I wanted to I have put a little note in to make sure that that I said that. So for the lion's share of us, please download the annual report before you come, or at least have it on your computer screen.
On your phone or on your computer.
And this is an effort to save money,
time
and
paper and trees,
natural resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
So generally when you come into town meeting, you're picking up a whole stack of paper, and that has always included the annual town report.
Right.
But this year that's not going to be available.
Well, it will, but limited.
Limited,
I mean,
right.
there are people in town that either don't have access to a printer or are not tech savvy, and we understand that, and so we want to be, we want to have that information available to them, but for the rest of us, we
don't
can
want to
print
carry
it
that
out.
around.
Yes.
You can, or you don't need to print it out. It's
Yeah,
many,
you can
many
have it on the
pages, but
computer,
you
yeah.
can read it on your computer if you're
Absolutely.
specific departments or specific committees. Everybody writes a report every year.
Yes.
All right. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Assessors and the Board of Health members to appoint themselves to work in their various departments for the ensuing fiscal year at hourly rates not exceeding the following. For the Board of Assessors, $17.50 per hour. For the Board of Health, $7.25 per hour. Or take any other action relative thereto. That's pretty much the end of every article, so I probably won't read that part again.
That's fine.
Okay, we don't need to hear that 50 times.
Unless you want to.
No, thank you.
So the approval of this article allows the members of the Board of Health and Board of Assessors to be compensated for work conducted in their official capacity. This is primarily for site visits.
Site visits, right.
And inspections.
Right.
So, and again, this is all under housekeeping.
Yes, we do this every year. I actually don't think these dollar amounts have changed for a number of years. All right, Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds in the Treasury a sum of money to be used by the Board of Assessors for legal counsel in resolving court tax cases.
Right. So this article authorizes funds to serve as a placeholder for Board of Assessors if there are legal expenses in resolving court tax cases. Additional funds may be transferred as required, but basically it's a placeholder so that if there are court tax cases, we have money to respond to that.
All right. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from free cash in the Treasury a sum of money to the reserve fund for use by the Finance Committee.
Yes. So the reserve fund is used for unforeseen emergency expenses, and it's generally a financial pool of money, and departments must request a dollar amount, and it has to be approved through the Finance Committee. So there's a check and a balance. But for instance, if there's an escalation in a utility bill that was unforeseen, that might go to the reserve fund. Or if there's some kind of unexpected event that, like fiscally related. And while it is not by law, the reserve fund should be replenished to avoid regularly funding operating expenses.
And I'm pretty sure, Lisa, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this fund is almost always $30,000 per year. And if it's not used, if there aren't any emergencies or they're only partial use, the balance goes back into free cash at the end of when the budget is scrubbed. So we basically recreate this fund every year. Am I correct?
I mean, it should be replenished every year. The reason being that you don't want it to be assumed it would go into the operating fund, because the whole idea of this is to have that extra cushion if needed.
Okay.
So.
Okay, Article 6, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to apply for and accept funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Highway Improvement Program for use on approved town ways.
Yes. So funds received through the Massachusetts Highway Improvement Program, I have to read this part because it's citing Mass General Law, are authorized by Mass General Law Chapter 90. So these are Chapter 90 funds. These funds are used to repair local roadways and to purchase road building equipment. Access to these funds must be approved at town meeting, and the spending is overseen by the town manager. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the sale of cemetery lots account a sum of money to the cemetery lot development account.
Right. At the conclusion of each cemetery lot sold, a portion of the proceeds is retained and returned to the Public Works Department Cemetery Division to develop additional space in our cemeteries for future burials. The passage of this article allows the DPW access to those funds.
Okay. Article 8. Now we are moving into another section of the warrant, which is called
housekeeping is done.
Housekeeping is done, so we're now on budget, capital, and financial articles.
Yes.
So we're starting with 8 to see if the town will vote to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided for by Section 108 of Chapter 41 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended, and to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds in the Treasury sums of money as may be deemed necessary to defray expenses estimated for the ensuing fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2025. You're up.
Okay. All right. So Article 8 contains a series of separate motions, and each represents a different town department budget, including the school department and capital improvement projects. Details of these budgets are contained in the Finance Committee's report. An affirmative vote must be cast on each motion to approve spending in the respective areas of the town for the upcoming fiscal year. So that is an overview without getting into
But from this,
each one
we
of
move
them.
on to individual motions then for departments, am I correct?
Yes.
So
Yep.
this one will take quite a bit of time because we're going to hit public safety and schools and all of those things one at a time because the numbers are big and confusing, and this way you'll understand what's being spent where.
Right.
Okay. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money from free cash in the Treasury to fund the following one-time and/or capital items and anything incidental or related thereto. This is followed by a chart. I can read them to you. Number 1, Chestnut Hill Community School door locks, $150,000. Number 2, JBMS phone system replacement, $38,000. Number 3, Rec Freedom Center, replace fire suppression pipe, $34,000. Number 4, former EMS building renovations to house the IT department, $73,912. Number 5, Chestnut Hill Community School heat pump replacement, $75,000. And town hall repair of front entrance, $50,000, totaling $420,912.
That's right. So the select board previously agreed to set aside $420,912 from free cash to fund several capital improvement projects in FY26. These items are not randomly selected. They were recommended by the Capital Improvement Planning Committee and the town manager. We did an assessment of all the buildings in town, the schools as well as town buildings, to get an understanding of what shape the buildings were in. And the list of repairs is longer than what we
Considerably
have here.
longer. Yeah, you couldn't have
Yes.
approved everything.
No, but we need to start. And these were considered the top priority. I can tell you, like the town hall repair of the front entrance, there's a wall that I touched, and when I went like this, it went in.
It wiggled.
It literally pushed in.
Yikes.
Yeah, and there are bricks there. I mean, this is, and also the Chestnut Hill Community School door locks. Okay,
Yeah, you do want those to work.
we do want those to work. So these are all things that the JBMS phone system replacement. It's spotty at best right now. So we really, in terms of emergency services, if we needed to get calls out, we want to have every confidence that we're going to be able to get calls out.
You'll be able to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I understand.
So, so we're very pleased that to offer this to the town. This is your tax dollars at work in ways that are very tangible, people can see. And I think over time, as we go down that list, we'll be in better shape. Having said that, I'm not lobbying, I'm just explaining.
Oh, sure. And that's what you're here to do.
Yes.
Article 10, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to enter into one or more agreements to lease and/or purchase departments of public work vehicles and other equipment pursuant to the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 21C, for a period in excess of 3 years, and to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds in the Treasury a sum of money for the first year payment of such agreements.
Right, and so I just looked ahead because I think Article 10, 11, and 12 all say the same thing.
Yeah, one is DPW,
Yeah, so
one is school department, and one is police department. Each of those is leasing a vehicle.
yes, so under Mass General Law, any lease or lease purchase agreement of 3 years or longer in duration must be approved by the voters at town meeting. Once this is complete, the town can execute an agreement with the selected vendor for the desired product. In Article 10, it's seeking authorization for a DPW vehicle.
Right.
In Article 11, it's seeking authorization for a school department vehicle. And in Article 12, it is seeking to authorize the select board
For a
to
police
lease
department
purchase
canine cruiser.
yeah, this is for the police department canine cruiser. So, so those three, first DPW, school department, and then police department covers Article 10, 11, and 12.
And the dollar amounts for those, if they apply, you will hear in the motions, not.
Yes, and
Not
in
in
fact, we want to say to the community about money overall. Like, we're not mentioning dollar amounts.
No,
for these.
because the dollar amounts show up in the motions. The motions have not yet been returned to Finnerty House
That's
from
right.
the town council, and so we can't give you that information tonight. But I don't know if it will be on the website before town meeting, but you will hear it the day of. And as voters, we hope you're all planning to attend.
Yes.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yes.
That's 10, 11, and 12.
Yes.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to enter into one or more, this is again, agreements to lease or purchase photocopiers for the Lawrence Memorial Hall, Select Board's office, the Senior Center, the Recreation Department, and or any other office requiring a photocopier pursuant to the provisions of General Laws 44, Section 21C for a period in excess of 3 years, and to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds in the Treasury a sum of money for the first year payments of such agreements.
That's right. So the only difference here is we're not talking cars, we're talking photocopiers.
Same thing, though. We've got to
Same
have
thing.
lease, and we have to have approval from town meeting to enter into those
That's
leases.
right. Everything has to be approved by the voters.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from free cash in the Treasury a sum of money to the stabilization fund.
Right. So each year, a portion of the certified free cash is set aside in the town's stabilization account. The projected balance after the annual town meeting is $2,405,703, which is at the low end of the Division of Local Services recommended percentage of our operating budget. Now the stabilization fund should be between 5 and 15% of our operating fund. So we're at the low end.
We're at the low end, but we're working on that
Yep.
because I know that we've addressed this for several years
Yep.
and have a plan now to continue addressing it.
We are.
so.
We are at, I think we're at 4.52. So it's not even quite 5%.
Right.
In fact, I think you can even quote me on that.
Okay.
So next year we will move confidently into what the state wants us to be.
Into the
Yeah.
range that we'd like to be
Yeah.
in. My understanding, my recollection, Lisa, is that last year maybe the Finance Committee made a plan to continually, whatever free cash the town has, to continually set aside some percentage of the free cash automatically to go into the stabilization fund, and some percentage, I think, to go into what they call OPEB, which is
OPEB.
other post-employment benefits, which is basically our obligation to people's pensions.
Absolutely.
And so we want to have our savings account healthy, and we
That's
want to
right.
have the account addressing OPEB in a good position to handle. We have a long-term obligation for the people working for us now who will retire, who will be entitled to pensions.
That's right. And the only thing I would add is it was not just the Finance Committee. This was a joint tri-board meeting decision of the Select Board, the School Committee, and the Finance Committee. We all made that commitment together, and our town manager, Steve Williams, also approved. So we are really trying to move towards, greater fiscal health as a community.
Right,
I'm
which
really
we have
proud
been
of
struggling
that.
with for a
Well,
while, so
and
it's
we're doing it.
making
It's hard.
forward motion. We're good with that. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund a sum of money to be used for operations, purchase, and installation of equipment and capital projects of the Belchertown Community Channel and anything incidental or related thereto for the ensuing fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2025.
Right. I love that it's called PEG.
I do too. Always have.
So the public education grant funds are received each year through our cable television agreement with Spectrum Northeast, LLC. The town receives a percentage of the company's gross receipts to use for the operation of the Belchertown Community Channel, BCTV, for public education purposes. These funds do not affect tax rate and are exclusively raised through customer billing.
So it's not coming out of
It's not coming
the
out
town's
of, no,
general funds?
nope.
Okay.
But it is coming out of your cable bill.
It is, that's true. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from available funds in the Treasury a sum of money to be used by the Belchertown Cultural Council for the purpose of providing engaging arts and cultural programming for the Belchertown community.
So this article appears on the warrant every year, and it's to provide fundings for events organized by the Cultural Council.
Like, for instance, Food Truck Fridays.
That's
like, for
right.
instance, Winter Light Night.
Oh, I love that.
And a number of other things that the Cultural Council has been either funding or partnering in funding
Right.
for the community itself.
I mean, they're year-round events, and their work is amazing, and we want to make sure to continue funding.
And everybody loves Winter Light Night, and everybody loves Food Truck Fridays, and you're gonna love they're cooperating with one of the new benches to be installed on
That's
the Lake Wallace
right.
Century Trail.
That's right.
A lot of things coming up. So
Yes.
Cultural Council meetings, I believe, are also broadcast, so you can follow up on those if you choose, or just ask a member when you run into them at town meeting.
Absolutely. They're a wonderful group doing great work.
All right, Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate from free cash in the Treasury a sum of money to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund. That's OPEB. We talked about that, but if you want to just...
Well, no, I mean, do you want me to repeat what you said? I mean,
No, it's what we
yeah.
just talked about, that
Yeah.
a plan was made in the last couple of years among all three of the boards, I guess, and the town manager to keep that fund or make it healthier and keep it healthy.
Yes, the projected balance after the annual town meeting is $387,460, which is considered considerably lower than the town's estimated liability of upwards to $30 million.
Yeah, of course, because we have people working now who are paying into that fund.
Right.
People who are approaching retirement who will be paid their pension out of that fund. And it's in everybody's best interest to keep that one, to get that in a healthier place, I think.
Yes, although I will make a comment that all cities and towns struggle with that
Oh,
one.
absolutely. Yeah, this is not
We're
not
not
unique to
unique.
Belchertown.
No.
No, it is not. All right, so now we're into general bylaw amendments. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 91, Personnel of the Code of the Town of Belchertown by amending Appendix A, Classification, Compensation Plan for Management, Administrative, or Professional Exempt Employees in the following prescribed manner. This is followed by a fairly big chart that addresses the salaries of department heads,
Right.
and followed again by a chart that follows hourly rates for part-time workers, and it's long, and you will see it when you get to town meeting. I don't think you want to address every single line in this,
I
Lesa.
think we would lose everybody. It also includes all the steps. So,
Right,
so
step
that
raises
for
and-
unions that,
Well, that's the next one, right?
the reason why I was going to say,
You're gonna cover
I'll
both
just
of them?
mention this, see, and you can decide not.
Okay.
Article 18 and 19,
Mm-hmm.
the town is proposing cost of living adjustments, which align with the cost of living adjusts that are agreed to in the various collective bargaining agreements. So that's what 18 and 19 do. That's why I was scooting in
I see what you
the
mean.
steps, unless
Okay.
you want to read that part too. But it's all,
No, it
18
won't make
and
any sense.
19 is about cost of
And we do it every year. The
Yes.
dollar amounts may change, but this
Yeah.
this has to do with paying our personnel. And both of these articles have charts within them that you can see when you pick up your warrant at town meeting, or if you can go now to the town clerk's website, I think, and see this as well. If you want
I
to
believe that's true.
read it in advance, you can do that.
Yep.
All right, let's see what Article 20, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 91, Personnel of the Code of the Town of Belchertown by amending Section 91-6, benefits in the following prescribed manner. And once again,
So can I offer?
this is long-ish. Do you want to do just a précis of
Well,
what it is?
this is Article 20 and 21.
Oh, again? Okay.
These address things like holidays and maternity leave, but what it does is it updates the language. So instead of Columbus Day, for instance, it's Indigenous Peoples Day.
Right.
Instead of maternity leave, it's parental leave. And so I could go through all the different strike-throughs, but the point of it is the articles propose updates to reflect modern, consistent language and to align with established practices, many of which are already incorporated in our existing collective bargaining agreements, but not here.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
it is truly about updating the language.
All right.
And so you'll see strike-throughs
And it protects our
bolds.
employees because it makes their agreements or their contracts up-to-date, modern, properly worded,
That's
such that
right.
they're comprehensible.
That's right.
So that is 20 and 21.
Yes.
Article 22, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 85 of the Code of the Town of Belchertown, officers and employees, to change the appointing authority for the various officers and employees of the town from the Select Board to Town Manager, so as to be consistent with Chapter 44 of the Acts of 2024, the Belchertown Town Manager Act.
Right. So
We had to go back in time a little bit for
Yes.
this one, right?
So our prior leader, town leader, was known as his role was as town administrator.
Right.
And this past year, we, with the help of legislation, moved from a town administrator to a town manager.
And there are substantive differences in those two titles,
Yes.
right? They have to be
Yes.
addressed.
Yes.
Okay.
And in Article 22, it attempts to address what those key differences are. If I had to sum it up, the onus of oversight of personnel has moved away from the Select Board and instead directly to
The town manager.
the town manager. And that's a key difference. So now the treasurer collector, who was reporting to the Select Board, now reports
to
to
the-
town manager. The town accountant now reports to the town manager rather than the Select Board. So a number of changes like that is included, and also included is what stays with the Select Board. So the Select Board still hires the fire chief and the police chief, and I mean, is that all I need to say
I
on
believe
that?
so, unless there's some,
I mean,
and he does,
The
town manager appoints committee members now, does collective
Yes,
bargaining.
that's
am I
right.
correct? And,
Yeah.
and the budget. And
Yes.
although that is done in cooperation.
Well, it's
obviously,
in
with the-
cooperation with the tri-board,
Right,
which I think
exactly.
is so healthy.
You have to have all those brains in the room,
Everybody's got
that's
to be
right, to make it
in the
make
room.
sense.
But Articles 22 and 23, if I want to get real formal, is they implement the provisions of the special legislation enacted in 2024, which transferred the appointing authority from the Select Board to the town manager. These changes are now being reflected in the town's bylaws as specified in the following 2 articles. It's a housekeeping measure only. Authority currently rests with the town manager.
All right, that was 21 and 22.
Yes.
Right. So 23
Is the same.
It is again?
Yeah.
No, this is to see if the town will amend the following. Okay. All right. Are we renaming
So
people or changing the authority from
It's changing
the select board
authority
to
from
the
the
town
select
manager?
board to the town manager. It includes the animal control officer.
I was going to say
advisory.
that
Okay, yes. you
Animal
say it.
Control Advisory Board, the Community Preservation Committee, the Community Preservation Committee replacement for any appointing authorities, blah, 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 Historic District Commission appointments, I'm sorry, that was it, and the Mobile Home Park Rent Control Board. So that's all changing from select board to town manager in the language of the town bylaws.
That's right. And it's to authorize the town clerk to change the word select board to town manager.
All right.
So we need to have a vote on that so it will all move forward.
Right, so that the language is correct
That's
for the
right.
future. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to adopt a new fee schedule for town clerk's fees in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 262, Section 34, and General Law, Chapter 148, Section 13, as follows, with additions shown in bold and deletions shown in strike through. And you're going to see this in every one of these articles. Anything that's going in is in bold, anything that's coming out is basically lined out in the previous text and will be replaced as bold-faced in the new text. Do you, is there anything about this, Lisa, that we need to?
Yeah, all I want to say about this is the fees are being adjusted to better reflect what surrounding communities
Right,
are
we do
charging.
sort of a constant check against surrounding communities so that
That's
we're on
right.
a par and everything
Yes.
seems
So-
equitable across communities.
That's right.
In terms of what we pay
And-
or charge.
And, you could see that we were woefully undercharging, at least from what we saw from
Your
surrounding
comparative
towns.
studies?
And I didn't do the comparison studies, but it's what the town brought to us.
It's interesting, isn't it? The differences, yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, Article 25, to see if the town will vote to amend the code of the town of Belchertown, Chapter 1, General Provisions, Section 1-2, Non-Criminal Disposition, by deleting in subsection C the section titled Chapter 15, Animals, Article 1, Dog Control, and replacing with the following fine structure so as to be consistent, again, with the fine structure set forth in general laws. And this, again, is fees or fines for people who are
right.
not abiding by the town's
Not in
bylaws.
compliance with animal control's
Fee schedules or
exactly.
Yes.
So the municipal fines and fees can be greater, but not less than the state. Current fines are less than state requirements. So that's just a good fact.
Okay,
to
so
know.
one point of clarification, they are currently, as voted at this town meeting, they are still less than the town's recommendations? Do
No,
we know
what the
that?
town recommendations, what we're
You're bringing them up to
yes.
state levels.
The current fines are less than state requirements.
Right.
So yes.
All right, so we're just trying to bring things in line again, I'm assuming.
Right. Yep.
Okay, now this is called local acceptance statutes. I'm not even sure what that means, Lisa, so maybe you can tell us. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 19K, which provides additional compensation for the town clerk if they have completed the necessary courses of study and training and have been awarded a certificate by the Massachusetts Town Clerks Association as a certified Massachusetts municipal clerk in an amount equal to 10% of their regular annual compensation, but not more than $1,000 per year. This, I'm assuming that means our town clerk has completed this certification.
Yes, she has, and it is. It's a certification that's never been completed by a town clerk in Belchertown
Ooh.
before.
Good for us.
It is good for us,
Yeah.
and what it does is it encourages town clerks to be knowledgeable about all the current and future trends around being a town clerk. And in order to obtain this, I just wanted to be able to tell you what you have to do.
What does she have to do? Yes.
So this is, again, to obtain certification as a certified Massachusetts municipal clerk, or CMMC. In order to obtain the certification, you must first be a town clerk for a minimum of 3 years, check. Next, you must obtain 100 points via attending educational classes, mentoring classes, in-office years of experience, as well as college credits. Once you have met the qualification, then you may attempt to the examination, to take the examination.
I see.
So testing is only offered twice a year. So our town clerk did this and got her certification. And again, we want to have town clerks do this because it aspires them to achieve the knowledge base necessary for the position. And if this is approved, this will be an incentive for the current and future town clerks to aspire to achieve, this same certification. There are many town clerks that have this certification. But again, Belchertown has never had a town clerk take the exam, and we require certification from other department heads, so this will align us all.
Leveling the playing field again.
That's right.
All right, and the more the town clerk knows, the better off we all are.
That's right.
All right, Article 27, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 53, Section 9A, which provides the following provisions with respect to nomination papers. The final date for obtaining blank nomination papers for a nomination to city or town office shall be 48 weekday hours prior to the hour on which nomination papers are required to be submitted to the registrars of voters for certification. Each candidate shall file with the city or town clerk, prior to obtaining blank nomination papers, a statement containing his or her name and address and the city or town office for which he or she, I'm going to say maybe we should be saying they now, intend to be a candidate. No candidate for city or town office shall receive more blank nomination papers than will contain the number of signatures required to place their name in nomination multiplied by 5.
Right.
So I remember I needed 50 signatures, I think, when I ran for the select board.
Right.
So you could have enough papers to permit you to have 250 signatures, is that?
That's how I read it.
Yeah, that's the way it sounds.
But this article would request the adoption of Mass General Law C-53, Section 9A, which lays out the requirements and timelines for obtaining nomination papers for town office. The town currently abides by these rules,
but we don't
have it in writing.
Nowhere in the, okay, all right.
And so this simply puts in writing what we do anyway.
Yeah, well, that formalizes it to some extent and probably makes it clearer for potential candidates.
Yep.
Since they know what they need to do and when they need to do it.
Yes.
Article 28, see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 3D, to establish an aid to the elderly and disabled taxation fund and a taxation aid committee comprised of the chair of the Board of Assessors, the treasurer collector, and 3 residents appointed by the town manager for the purpose of defraying the real estate taxes of elderly and disabled persons of low income, and which shall be funded by voluntary donations made by taxpayers through an earmark on their real estate and motor vehicle excise tax bills.
That's right. So we have heard as a board that there are people in our community that are struggling. In the elder community, in the veterans community, and in other special needs. And so for Article 28, this is a voluntary donation that one can make. It'll be on your real estate and motor vehicle excise tax bill. And so, you can either check it off or not. But if you want to help support that community, then put your $10 donation in, and that's where it will be earmarked to go.
And it goes into this fund, which
that's right.
I am assuming has been created by the state, and now we need to make sure the town is wanting to accept those provisions.
Does the town agree?
Yeah.
Should we do this?
Yeah.
Once we get an understanding of yes or no,
yes.
then we can put together the committee.
mechanisms,
But we know who it's going to be made up of. So we're being as transparent as possible.
Okay. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 3D, to establish a town Veterans Assistance Fund under the supervision of the Veterans Agent and the Treasurer Collector, the purpose of which shall be to provide support for veterans and their dependents in need of immediate assistance with food, transportation, heat, and oil expenses, and which shall be funded by voluntary donations made by taxpayers through an earmark on their real estate and motor vehicle excise tax bills.
That's right.
Same mechanism for
So
funding.
again, so the first one is specific to the elderly and disabled.
Right.
The second one, Article 29, is specific to veterans.
I see. But other than that, there's no difference.
There's
You'll
no
have a
difference. It'll be-
check box on your
That's right. On
motor
your
vehicle and real estate
excise-
tax bills.
That's right.
And you can, yay or nay, your willingness to
That's
donate
right.
to the program.
And there's, it's a private decision.
No one's going to know.
No one's going to know.
Okay. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to accept provisions of General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5K, which authorizes the Select Board to establish a program to allow persons over the age of 60 to volunteer to provide services to the town in exchange for a reduction in the real estate tax bill at an hourly rate equal to the minimum wage of the Commonwealth in an amount not to exceed $1,500 per year.
Right. So Article 30 and 31.
Okay.
Let's see.
Or I see veterans and people over 60.
Yes. So Article 30 and 31. Again, the first Article 30 is specific to the
Persons
residents.
over age 60.
That's
yeah.
right. And in exchange for volunteer services for the town. So what that might be is, this is just an example, is to go into the schools and cover school lunch so that teachers get a break. They now have to cover school lunch.
They have to be there as.
That's right. And so if we had volunteers to come in and do that, then the teachers could go back to their classrooms and work on their lesson plans or correct papers or all the other million things that teachers do. Or a volunteer could work at the Clapp Memorial Library, maybe putting away books or directing people to where they need to go to get whatever resource that the Clapp Memorial Library has. So the volunteer opportunities will be identified once we understand whether or not this is something that
The town would like to do.
would like to do. But in exchange for their volunteerism, they will get up to $1,500 off their property tax bill. So it's kind of a
I'm sure there'll be a
great thing.
formula for that. So
There
in
will
so
be a
many hours,
formula.
it's such and such an hourly
Absolutely,
rate.
it's yeah, all of that will be worked out. I believe we set it at $20 an hour, but I don't want to be quoted on that. So
It says equal to the minimum wage of the Commonwealth, which I think is $15 an
yeah,
hour
but
now?
there were in
Did you decide
discussions
to-
on this. I know that it was talked about maybe 20.
So
But-
hopefully the motion
Yeah.
will specify.
Yes.
Those
yeah,
dollar
Yep,
amounts.
and I'm going to check with Steve.
Okay,
Like,
okay,
what,
yeah,
what
okay.
are we doing here? But the good news is that that it's an opportunity for to provide relief to seniors, and in Article 31, same thing for veterans. But it also gives an opportunity for seniors and veterans to be engaged in the community.
To be out and about. yes,
Exactly,
yeah.
and feel needed and necessary, because they are needed and necessary. So opening up opportunities like this it's just a win-win. Well, but we'll see what the
So it
citizens
will be the will of
decide.
town meeting. If we pass
That's right.
these, that means we'll be initiating these
Yes.
potential.
And I will say that these property tax write-off programs are popping up all over, all cities and towns all over Massachusetts, and including many right here in Western Massachusetts.
All right. So you will hear the motion and you will decide how you feel about that.
Yeah.
Have we covered Article 32 as well?
32
No,
is a little different.
That is different. So this is, let's see if we can, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22I, I believe that is, which has been inserted pursuant to Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024, the so-called HERO Act, which will annually increase the amount of the real property tax exemption granted to qualifying veterans under the General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22, Clause 22A, Clause 22B, Clause 22C, Clause 22E, and Clause 22F by the percentage increase in the previous year as determined by the Commissioner of Revenue, also known as a cost of living adjustment or COLA, to be effective for applicable exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2025.
Well done.
Thank you. I have trouble saying appropriate or appropriate. You know, it's like a tongue twister.
So again, I'm going to push.
We have two of them,
Article
right?
32
and 33.
and Article 33.
Right.
And these both pertain to veterans, and I just want to spell out what HERO means. So the passing of an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our servicemen and veterans. HERO Act.
I see.
Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024. This provides 2 additional real estate tax exemptions to qualifying veterans. So if accepted, it would allow the an annual cost of living increase determined by the Commissioner of Revenue on exemptions granted to qualifying disabled veterans starting in FY 2026. And then C122J, if passed, would allow an optional additional increase to the existing veterans exemptions up to but not exceeding 100% of the exemptions. So so said simply, the HERO Act would increase property tax exemptions, financial support, and access to services for our veterans.
For the veterans.
Yes.
All right. And if I understand 33 correctly, if you're already qualified for an exemption, then you can get an additional real estate property tax exemption in an amount not exceeding 100% of your current exemption.
Yeah,
is what it sounds like.
That's what
to
I
me.
said.
That
Yeah,
what it sounds like. Okay.
That's what it,
all right. I'm sorry. I needed.
No, that's fine.
My brain couldn't take all that in, so we had to.
It's complicated, and you know, I would encourage people to look up the HERO Act, HERO, and read more about it. I could have spent a good 20 minutes just talking about this, so just trying to bring it down to a boilerplate. I think what's important to know is about the increased property tax exemptions and financial support and access to services, all for our vets.
All for veterans.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Article 34, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 90, Section 17C, which will allow the Select Board to establish a speed limit of 25 miles per hour on any roadway that is not a state highway inside a thickly settled or business district of the town.
Right. And so this was brought forward by our wonderful Chief of Police, Chief Pacunas, in studying the patterns of car accidents and other factors, and looking at other towns, including, I believe, Wilbraham has adopted this. This article would allow the Select Board to establish a speed limit of 25 miles an hour on roads with thickly settled or business districts not already posted under Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 18. So I live on South Street, and it's like a speedway.
It is.
It is, and there are a lot of streets and roads in Belchertown, just like mine. And so this would hopefully calm the speeding down and save lives, save vehicles, save mailboxes. We all need to slow down. Now, whether or not the town feels in a similar vein, we'll see. But this article is to ask our community if they're in agreement that we need to lower the speed limit.
All right. All right. So will that mean that no speed limits will be posted on any roadways? You just assume it's 25?
They will be posted, but we'll need to have Chief Pacunas say this again because I want to make sure I get it right.
I'm sure he will at town meeting,
Yes,
I'm sure.
but as I understand, at the beginning of the road, there will be a post. There will be a posting.
Okay.
And then the assumption is that's a continued speed unless you see a sign saying something differently.
Okay.
So I'd rather have Chief Pacunas explain this better and Chief, if I didn't get it quite right, I know that you'll jump in and
He will be, I'm sure he'll be prepared.
exactly.
All right, we had heard it somewhat differently, so I'm happy to have some clarification, and
Yeah.
hopefully he'll provide that.
Well, I know that what I said about establishing the limit of 25 miles per hour within thickly settled or business districts is right.
I think the question for me is who determines if it's thickly settled? I mean, I might feel one way about it and somebody else
That's
might
an
feel
excellent
differently.
question.
So he will have to define
Yes.
thickly settled. I'm
Yep.
sure there is probably a
Yes.
definition of that.
Yep.
All right, so the next section of the warrant is roadway acceptances. We have, I believe, only 2 of those to
Right.
discuss, and then all the following articles are Planning Board or Community Preservation Committee. We have already taped the chair of the Planning Board and a member of the CPC discussing their articles, so we won't ask you to explain any of those tonight, but we are going to finish with Article 35.
Yeah.
And Article 36 if you want to
Sure.
group them. And Article 35, we're wanting to see if the town will vote to accept as a public way the roadway known as Hickory Hills subdivision, as heretofore laid out by the Select Board and shown on a plan of land entitled Street Acceptance Plan, Magnolia Lane, Sycamore Circle, Dogwood Drive, Hickory Hills, and so on and so forth. And in Article 36, we're accepting as a public way the roadway known as Woods Edge Road, all shown on a plan entitled Street Acceptance Plan and As-Built Condition Plans, Willow Lane, and a portion of Jason's Way. And these are prepared by the town engineers, I think. So can you just
Sure.
explain what those are real quick?
Sure. So the last step in the subdivision process is to accept a private subdivision road as a public way. And so this allows the town basically to access state aid funds for road maintenance and repair. It also allows the stormwater system and any affiliated open spaces to be accessed by the public and maintained by the town. So we've gotten all the sign-offs for this. And approving this article will add a total of 1.14 miles to the town's public way inventory currently eligible for state aid.
Chapter 70 funds. Have I got the wrong number? State?
I believe
Is it 90?
it might be 90.
You'll hear about it at town meeting. I think it's chapter 90. For what
It
that
is. I
means
think
is
that's
if a road
90.
is not a public way, then it's not included in the number of miles for which we receive sort of a state allowance
That's right.
for road repair and I think
Exactly.
maintenance and the
That's-
like. So
that's
if
exactly
your road
right.
is not a public way, then it's being maintained either by the town or by a private company, but it's not included in funds which are given to the town annually to support road maintenance and road repair. And so we want these, when these subdivisions are finished, we want the roads to be designated as public ways in order to benefit by that.
So we can get the state aid.
I have that all right?
So that will be eligible for state aid. And for the one little addition I'd add for Article 36 is, so for Article 35, we add a total of 1.14 miles to the town public ways inventory, and which would be eligible for state aid. For Article 36, the roadway known as Wood Edge Road, would add a total of 0.25 miles to the town's public way inventory currently eligible for state aid.
Okay, and I suppose we need to know that always. It does tells you how many miles we're adding and how we can benefit by that. For Article 37 and 38 and 39, we have already spoken with Mr. Bodette, who chairs the planning board currently, and he has explained all of those changes. And for Article 40 as well, I guess, primary agricultural. All right, so the remaining acts, Articles 41 through 50, are the annual Community Preservation Committee recommendations for funding to town meeting. They've made their vote around each of the applications which came to them this year for community preservation funds, and they've determined, I believe that Wilbur told us that every one of these was voted unanimously to go forward by the Community Preservation Committee. But now it's up to you at town meeting. So you will hear, again, the descriptions of those projects and the dollar amounts involved, and you can make your own determination at that time. In the meantime, thank you for dragging out here on a weekend with us. We appreciate your time and all of the information that you brought forward. We hope that you feel better informed now to deal with a 50 warrant article town warrant, and that we will see all of you on Saturday the 31st to see how you vote on these articles.
Well, I want to thank you, Peg. It was so delightful to do this.
Thank you.
This is my first time going through it, and it was just a delightful conversation. I encourage everyone to come to town meeting, participate. This is democracy in action, and it's exciting. It can be long, but bring snacks and
and water
and sit with your friends and neighbors and help shape the future of Belchertown.
All right, just reminding everyone that this year's town meeting is on May 31st. The special will be at 8:30. The annual will be at 9. You should all be there. I think we're going to have big numbers this year, so try to get there early. You'll be voting with the clicker system, which most of you will remember, and should make things go a little more quickly, but it's going to be a long day with 50 articles to address. So we hope we've answered some of your questions in advance. And if not, you are welcome to ask them at town meeting, and we will see you all there. One thing you should all know is that daycare is now provided at this town meeting because it's on a Saturday. So in the cafeteria at the high school, if you have little ones, you want to come to town meeting, drop them off at the daycare.